Hey, hi, I'm Vignesh KV. So today I'm going to talk about one of the deployment strategies for which is specifically suited for microservice architecture. So I've created a detailed explanation in my GitHub um, repo, so you guys can go through. So basically, this is a high availability Docker Swarm cluster on a virtualized infrastructure. So basically, what I'm trying to do is like we have two virtual boxes of Ubuntu flavor. Both are hosted in my local virtual box, and I'm trying to establish a communication between them. And once the communication is established, I'm going to one communication is through network layer, another communication is through. I'm going to install Docker in both of these Ubuntu servers, and I'm going to make these two machines to communicate through the Docker. So whereas one act as a master, other act as a slaves, and basically whenever you want, you can just scale up and scale in the number of RESTful services you need. So that's what the idea is, and it's a very simple architecture, nothing much of complications, and it's very easy to understand also. So I'm just first I'll explain the architecture here. So let's say you have one thing, one is microservice manager, and other one is microservice worker, as you can see here. So what we are trying to do is like in microservice, I have a manager which is an ingress, a swarm worker, like I have a RESTful API called who am I. And you see, this microservice worker doesn't have the Swarm API, but it connects to the Swarm, that is the microservice manager. And it is also, let's say, you can see here we have around one, two, three replicas, and here also I'm having a similar replica. So basically, this microservice manager acts as a Swarm manager. Basically, the engine, the Swarm engine resides in the manager, whereas this is a Swarm worker, which works for the Swarm manager. Okay, so this is a basic idea of it. So deployment strategy, and I've given all the details. So let's get started. I'll just tell you guys. So I have a virtual box in my local system. So if you can see this virtual box, I have two VMs of Ubuntu running. One is called Microservice Manager, another one is called Microservice Worker. So now let me, I have, then what I did, yeah, that is one more thing which I need to do. So for these two VMs to communicate with each other, I have, what I did is, you just need to go to the settings. Okay, just go to the settings and go to the networks. Okay, adapter one, leave about it. Okay, that's basically to connect to the internet. NAT is nothing but network address translation, and it basically allows the VMs to connect to the internet through your machine, host machine. Whereas I have another network called bridged adapter, which basically connects these VMs and also connects these VMs with our local machines. Okay, this is acting as a bridge between the two VMs, as well as it creates an internal network between the subnet in which our host machine is hosted. So make sure that adapter 2 you're selecting bridged adapter both for VM1 and VM2, that is microservice manager as well as for microservice worker. So I'll show you the network configuration. Adapter 2 is also a bridged adapter. So I think this is great. So once these two things are done, then the other thing what you have to do is you just need to, I have got the IPs of both the, what to say, microservice manager as well as worker, as you can see here. And let me do internet with this architecture, maybe like this, so that it's easier for you guys to also visualize. So basically, this is manager. Maybe I can put this up and put the worker down so that it will be even more easier. So one thing is our micros. If you just do, okay, now I'll tell you how to connect this. So basically, you need to run this command. It is sudo docker swarm init advertise address of the manager machine. So once you run this, the swarm get initialized and you get a token. This is, and you just copy this command, okay, and just go to the worker now. Okay, so now let me go to the worker mode. If you clear the screen, just execute this. Okay. I mean, since it's already a part of the Docker Swarm, it's not doing it. But let us do one more thing. You know, what are the nodes which are Docker node, I guess. Oh, just only one. Why? Because I haven't connected the worker node properly. Let me do Docker Swarm. I'll connect this, do this. Okay. Yeah. What I'll do, I'll just copy this command, paste it here and execute. It is done. Now let us verify whether this node has been added to the manager. Yeah, it's done. You can see here, you can see microservice manager and microservice worker. Both are running here. So pretty good guys. We did fantastic job. So this is the basic architecture of a swarm. So you just need to copy this join, Docker swarm join, and just execute it any number of VMs and join it to the master node. And you have a Docker swarm cluster setup already. So since we have this, now the next step is to deploy a microservice and see how this actually works in the Docker manager and the worker. Let's create a simple visualizer. So I'm going to create a service called this, which is a Docker, which is readily available. You can directly use this. So it's a Docker service create hyphen name, which is this, and I'm just publishing it on 8080 port. Okay. Constraint mode as manager, mount type, and that's it. It's pretty simple. Let me run this. Okay. So then you can see the command which I ran. So there is trying to deploy the service. Okay. So let's see. It will take a few minutes, guys. Let's wait for some time. Okay. Now our Docker service has started. Let's see if anything is running. So that is running on port 8080. So let me go through my browser. So this is basically a Docker visualizer tool which has been provided by the Docker itself. You can directly use it. You can see here we have a microservice manager and we have a microservice worker. And you can see these things. It is simple. Just refresh the page. Yeah, it's working as expected. Cluster. And in that cluster, we have one manager and one worker node. And to visualize these two things, Docker itself is providing us a tool called Docker Visualizer, which we use, which is basically a kind of what we can say, a kind of RESTful API, which the Docker uses to make this visualization uh, appetizing and you can really, oh, okay, I have one manager, one worker. There can be multiple workers also. So this is one step. Next, the second step will be deploying few microservices, a simple microservice, and see how this one plays around. Let's see that. Hey guys, now we can see our Docker running. Let's deploy some basic services. So the other service I'm trying to deploy in is Docker service create my API with four replicas, and I'm going to publish this in port 80. This is basically a who am I, a simple API. Instead of this, you can create your own APIs and deploy. I'm just going to talk more on the deployment front, so I'm not getting into the RESTful APIs at all. So let me create this RESTful API. What is happening? Let me see. One minute. Maybe the wrong. It is. I think the Docker image which I was trying to do was let me. Okay. As you can see, so my service is getting deployed. Here, my microservice manager and worker both are changing. You can see here. So VI user is my visualizer tool, and my API is the API which I just now deployed. And you can see in manager there are two nodes. and in worker, there are two nodes. Basically, we have told the replicas to be four, so it just transfer the load between manager and workers. If you have more number of workers, let's say we have around four workers, okay, in that case, my API here in worker, it will be four APIs, and the manager and in the microservice manager, it will be just one or two or nothing. It just manages this.
So basically, why we are saying this is high architecture is, let's say one worker node goes, you again have the API getting serving from another node, okay, and also let's say in these worker node, any one of these containers have an issue, still you get response from the other node. Okay, this is one beautiful way of deployment. The deployment is also easy. Other one more thing is, let's say you have a new application or a patch of this applications. Okay, for this my API, you have a patch version which is coming in, but you need to test this, and if it is working or not, something you need to do. So how the deployment can go is a round robin version. Let's say I deploy the my patched version in this particular pod, okay, not on this pod, okay, and I'll see whether this is working fine. And once this container I see, okay, whatever the patch version I'm deployed, it's working fine, then I'll try to apply it everywhere. Okay, so this provides a safe patch updates of our applications without needing to do a much of hurry burry. This increases our development to production pathway, because maybe in a production cycle, development cycle, you do a lot of testings, you do a lot of minor changes, but you don't know how it's going to work in production. In those cases, you can make use of this, and it really helps, guys. So that's basically about our swarm architecture. Thank you all. Thank you so much.